Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, you guys. Welcome to my channel. It's your girl Cece. So I got up this morning to walk and it's been raining. So I do not have a treadmill. And so what I plan on doing is pulling up YouTube and seeing if I can find some cardio. Well, not fine, because I know I can find some cardio, but pulling up YouTube and doing some cardio from YouTube since it's raining. So with that being said, I know I said we were going to take this journey together, in which we are. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, the mental health aspect of menopause. But the Lord led me to the book of Job. The Lord revealed so much to me. I've read the book of Job before in the past, but it had been a minute since I read the book of Job. And so I just was studying like the book of Job and just reading it. I've heard sermons on the book of Job and how, in the beginning, we know that God and Satan had a conversation and God allowed Satan to go and test Job. But he told him he couldn't touch him, which means he couldn't kill him or anything, but he could, go. Have you tried my servant Job? And so, we know that Job lost so much back to back. And the thing that stood out to me the most during my studies was the dialogue that Job had between him and his friends. Most of the time, first and foremost, of course, when he was also sick, you know what I'm saying? Job was sick during the process. Job was just going through it, y'all. And so when his friends came, initially they didn't even know what to say. So they were quiet. They wouldn't say anything. But then when they did begin to speak to Job, when they began to speak to Job, they were just sure that Job had sinned. They were sure that Job had sinned and stuff. And and Job was just like, no, you know what I'm saying? Well, not saying that he didn't sin, but, because Job was an upright man, right? And so he was just, but he was telling his friends, like, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, And so his friends was just like, nah, bro. And I'm paraphrasing. They were just like, you have had to have done something for this stuff to take place. And all three of his friends were just like, hey, this is what you need to do. And his friends were getting upset because Job was giving pushback. And not only was Job giving pushback to his friends, also he was crying out to God. He was praying to God. Job was trying to figure this thing out. And also the fact of Job wasn't hearing anything. He was feeling a ways that God wasn't answering him, right? And so he wanted God to like take me to court, see if I'm guilty. You know what I'm saying? Like he wanted to plead his case before the Lord as well, before his friends, to prove that, like, I am an upright man. These are the things that I've done. I've tried my best to live the best of my ability according to God's ways. And his friends was just not hearing it, and he just was not hearing from God. And in that moment, God was silent, and Job did not understand why. He was trying to figure it out. And so on top of that, his friends was not making it any better. And it was just like Job was just, his mental, like he was trying to keep it together mentally as well. It was hard for him to keep it together mentally because he just did not have that understanding of what was going on and why was this happening and why can't I hear from you, God? And so just listening and reading the dialogue between him and his friends and stuff, and it was just, I'm sorry, y'all. Anyway, what was I saying, y'all? I was talking about the conversation between him and his friends, Job and his friends, and how his friends was like swearing up and down that Job had sinned and stuff like that. But Job had no idea about the conversation that Satan and God had and things of that nature. And Job was just trying to figure this thing out. But the Lord revealed to me, it was just like, this was so powerful, because the Lord revealed to me our mental health. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about how Job trying to hold it together. Think about the fact that he lost everything. He lost his kids. He lost everything, right? And lost his cattle. He lost everything. And then the fact that his friends come over, and now they're even making it worse because they're accusing him of being a sinful man. And so now it's like, how did he hold it together? Not only that, on top of that, he's praying and he's crying out to God, and he ain't hearing nothing. He's not hearing nothing. And I believe that's why God led me to read the book of Job during the time that I was going through what I was going through, because of, the things that I was going through in my mental health. And I never thought about it in that aspect. Again, I've read Job before, the fact of how he kept it together mentally. How was he keeping it together mentally? You know what I'm saying? Like, that had to be just like, not just painful in his heart about the loss of his things, but the fact of mentally, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so not feeling like you're hearing from God, not feeling like you're hearing from God, you're crying out to him. Your friends that's supposed to be there to support you are just basically throwing stones at you and accusing you, basically. Like, can you imagine the agony that Job was going through? And it just listening to how he cried out to God, and like, God, just answer me, like, answer me. And it was nothing, right? And it's 42 chapters in Job. So this went on for a very long time. That's 42 chapters. A lot of times when you hear Job preach, it's just summed up in a few chapters, the beginning and the end. They may mention his friends, but it's more so about the beginning where he lost everything, and then the end where God restored him. It's just summed up in those few chapters, not really taking into consideration the things that he went through when he was talking to his friends, when he was crying out to God, the dialogue between him and his friends. Like, that's just as important too, because Job had to go through this. Again, not just physically, when he also got sick as well, as you know, but just mentally. Just think about when you're sick physically in your body, and now your mind ain't on track. You ain't on track. You off. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. It can be hard. And so Job, this book just blessed me beyond measures when I went back to read it again. And the fact that at the end, when God revealed himself to Job, when God finally revealed himself to Job, it was like God questioned Job. First of all, he was just like, who is this that's saying all this stuff and you don't even know what's going on? Like, we had the privilege of knowing what happened in the beginning of the chapters of Job with the conversation. Job didn't have that. He had no clue what took place. No clue why he was being tested, none. And the thing of it is, God still didn't even reveal that to him at the end. Even when he restored Job, he didn't reveal to Job about the conversation him and the devil had. He did not reveal that to him. And so it just opened my eyes to say that some things are not meant for us to understand, period. That's what you call the mysteries of God. And the fact of the matter is that he just needed Job to continue trusting in him. And that was the point that he was trying to make to the devil. Like, you can do all these things if you want to, but I can guarantee you, Job is not going to turn his back on me. You know what I'm saying? Even though Job was trying to figure this out, God knew that Job was not going to turn his back on him. And so Job didn't know that this was like almost like hey, you think you in control when you think you got it together. This is what God is. I'm not just paraphrasing, thinking according to my readings that, God is telling the devil, like, okay, go ahead. Try my servant Job. Go ahead. And the fact of the matter, like, Job had no clue, and he's crying out to God. Like, we don't understand the things that we go through sometime. And it's not always meant for us to figure it out. It's just meant for us to follow God. And even during the times when we think that God is silent, God never left Job. Oh, he never left Job. Job had protection from the very beginning. Job was protected the entire time. Even though he didn't hear from God, Job was protected. Even though Job went through all what he went through, he still was protected by God. He still was protected. He still was protected, covered. He may have lost things, physically. He may have lost his children, his cattle, all of that stuff that he had. You know what I'm saying? He even got sick in his body, but he still was protected. He didn't allow the enemy to take Job out. He didn't allow the enemy to kill Job. And so even though in the midst of we might be going through the hardest and toughest times in our life, you still got breath in your lungs. And that's just enough to praise God for. Even if you can't hear him and you don't understand and you may think God is silent right now. Just because God is not revealing to you why things are happening to you, that don't even mean that he's silent. This mean that it's not meant for you to know, but just continue trusting in him. But how God answered Job at the end. He told, first of all, Job was so upset with his friends. If you read the dialogue, Job was like, y'all ain't making it no better. And his friends was not making it no better. And it was crazy because at the end, when God spoke to Job, he knew that Job felt the way about his friends. And if you read in the last chapters, God told Job to pray for your friends. Pray for them. It don't matter what they accuse you of. Pray for them. Job had to humble himself because the questions that God was asking him, like, was you there in the beginning? Was you there with me when all of this was, like when I formed the earth? And Job had to humble himself and repent. He humbled himself and he repented. Because who were we to demand answers from God? There's nothing wrong with questioning God and asking God, like, why is this going on? But we don't have the right to demand. And I think at one point in time, Job seems like he was demanding like answers, like, Lord, answer me now. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? But Job repented. He humbled himself. He had a prideful moment. Like, I'm this, I'm that. We don't want to say that, but Job had a prideful moment. He did a little bit. He had a prideful moment because he knew that, like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But God still was like, no matter how good of a saint you think you are, we still got flaws. We're not perfect. And we can follow Christ and follow him to the best of our ability. We'll never be perfect. We're always going to fall short. But that doesn't mean either that because we fall short, these are the consequences of us falling short. Meaning that these chapters wasn't, and the things that happened to Job wasn't a consequence of him falling short. It was a conversation that Job had no idea about between God and the devil. And at the end, the Lord never revealed that to him. He never revealed that to him. God restored Job back. He restored him bigger, better, tenfold, double for his trouble. And that was such a blessing. But the bigger blessing was that Job realized that God was there all along. He knew that God never left him. And he was so excited that God was there. He was so excited that God was there at the end, that God, he knew in his heart of hearts that God didn't leave him. He was just trying to figure out where was he at during that time and why wasn't he answering him and why is his friends saying the things that they saying. But some things are not meant for us to be revealed to us. God just wants us to continue trusting him. That's it. And he knew that Job was going to continue to trust him. He knew it. Right? And so that's what he wants. But he also wants us to know that everything is not meant for us to figure out. We don't know what happens in the heavenly realms, in the spiritual realm. We don't know. All we can do is just pray and trust God and seek God during those times and know he has us and he knows what's best for us and that he has something better in store for us. So for me, even though God restored Job and gave him double for his trouble, like he blessed him so much more in the latter part, I think the bigger picture was the fact that he also let Job realize that he never left him. He never left him during all of that. That was the bigger blessing. That he never left him. He was there all along, protecting him. And that he just needed Job to trust him. And Job did. Where's your faith? Where's your faith during trying times? So I just wanted to share that this morning. That is a part of us, going through. The revelation of this going, my mental health and the things that I went through during the time that I was going through, the things that I was going through physically in my body. The book of Job really truly blessed me because it showed that he went through some things and his mental, like, we don't hardly hear about that when we hear this sermon preached, but it was there. Like, can you just imagine you done lost your children? You done lost everything that you've ever worked for. And the fact that you try your best to be the best saint, like you try to follow God's way as much as possible. And all these things happen to you. And then the fact of his friends on top of that came and was accusing him and telling him, nah, bro, you sinned. You did something. And knowing that Job was like, no, I do the best that I can do. And then Job too was also comparing. That was another thing he had to go through. Mentally, he like, I know people that's out there that's wicked, evil. And it seemed like they're getting blessed. It seemed like nothing is going wrong for them. Man, y'all, this book just, when the Lord led me to read this during that time, it was such a blessing. Like, for me to really do a deep dive in this. No matter how much we think we know God. And that's our job, to know his character and to know how he is. But no matter how much we think we know him, we still don't know everything. We just know surface level. We just scratching the surface. All we can go by is what his word says. That's all we can do. Go by what the word tells us how he is. But we don't know everything. He is the one who knows. He is a sovereign God. He knows all things. And we as humans do not. And it's not up to us to try to figure it out. It's just up to us to trust him. So that's my take for today. And yeah, that's all I have. I will get up and do when I finish my studying this morning, I will get up and get to my exercise. Like I said, it's raining out there. So I really want to go out there and walk. I like walking better than doing the aerobic exercise and stuff like that. But y'all, we are on this journey together. And we're gonna get our mental health on task. We're gonna keep it on task. It's not just about, if you got any medications that you're supposed to be taking, please take them. But we also want to make sure we're getting our spiritual health, which is a part of our mental health, on task too, to help us to navigate through this life, and our physical health. So again, like I said, we on this journey together, and I am going to exercise more. So I encourage you to exercise if you have not already. Whatever time of day this is, whatever time of day you've seen this video, whether it's morning, noon, or night, or I ain't gonna say night, but morning or afternoon or noon, please go out and get your workout in. Get your workout done if you can. And make sure you eat healthy, and make sure you stay in your word and everything. And that's pretty much all I got this morning. And until the next video, you guys be blessed.